Walk into any boat show and you think you're comparing competitors. 62 of those brands answer to a single corporation. Today it's called Brunswick. It pulls in $5.2 billion a year, controls nearly half the outboard engine market, and admits its boats share a standardized build. How a company that once made billiard tables and toilet seats quietly locked down an entire industry. That story starts in 1845. John Moses Brunswick started small. In 1845, he opened a workshop on Cincinnati's Main Street, building wooden billiard tables by hand. But the company that bears his name never stayed in one lane. Over the next century, Brunswick became a master of reinvention, jumping from one unlikely product line to the next. By the early 1900s, Brunswick wasn't just selling pool tables. It was turning out bowling balls, pins, and entire lanes, making the brand a fixture in American recreation. Then came the toilet seats. In the 1920s, Brunswick's factories churned out thousands of plastic-coated seats and school desks, shipping them to new suburbs across the country. The company even tried its hand at military technology. During World War II, Brunswick's plastics division built lightweight drone bodies for experimental aerial targets, decades before drones became a household word. The list of oddities didn't stop there. Brunswick made hospital beds, gym equipment, and even dabbled in bicycles. By the 1950s, the company ran dozens of plants from coast to coast, with product catalogs that read like a department store's wish list. There was no clear pattern, just a restless search for new markets and a willingness to build almost anything that could be stamped, molded, or assembled. Each new venture seemed more unlikely than the last, yet somehow each one worked, at least for a while. This scattershot approach to business set the stage for something bigger, a leap into an industry no one could have predicted from a company that once made its name on felt and hardwood. Brunswick Corporation's true size isn't obvious from the outside. In 2024, the company reported $5.2 billion in revenue, more than the combined sales of many of its so-called competitors. That figure comes straight from the company's own Form 10-K, a document required by the SEC and verified by auditors. But it's not just about money. Brunswick employs 13,000 people worldwide, with operations in 24 countries on 5 continents. That workforce runs factories, service centers, and distribution hubs that supply nearly every corner of the boating market. The scale is staggering when you consider what it means for buyers. More than 60 brands now sit under the Brunswick umbrella, covering everything from entry-level aluminum fishing boats to high-end offshore cruisers. The company's boat group alone manages 13 distinct hull brands, each with its own logo and marketing story. Yet behind the scenes, the same corporate playbook guides production, sourcing, and quality control across the entire portfolio. This reach extends far beyond hulls. Brunswick controls Mercury Marine, the outboard engine giant that powers close to half of all new boats sold in the United States. It owns Navico, a leader in marine electronics, think fish finders, chart plotters, and autopilot systems. And through Freedom Boat Club, Brunswick now shapes how many Americans first experience boating, turning casual renters into future buyers. Every step of the process, from the factory floor to the dealership, is touched by the same parent company. For consumers, the impact is clear. What looks like a crowded marketplace is in reality dominated by a single corporate force with global reach and unprecedented influence over how boats are built, sold, and used. Walk into any boat dealership in America, and the names on the hulls seem to promise real variety. Boston Whaler, with its reputation for unsinkable offshore boats. Sea Ray, the classic symbol of luxury sport cruisers and performance yachts. Bayliner, the go-to for families and first-time buyers. Lund and Crestliner, both trusted by generations of anglers. Lowe, Harris Pontoons, Heyday, Princecraft, Quicksilver, Uttern, Valiant, and Rayglass. 13 distinct brands, each with its own logo, advertising, and story. But behind the badges, every one of these brands is managed by the same parent company, Brunswick. The Boat Group division alone covers this full spectrum, from entry-level aluminum fishing boats to high-end carbon fiber racers. Each brand claims a unique identity, yet all are listed on a single corporate ledger, overseen by the same executive team, and manufactured under a unified set of processes. This is only the start. Beyond the hulls, Brunswick's portfolio stretches across the entire boating experience. Mercury Marine supplies the outboards for nearly half of all new boats sold in the United States. Navico's electronics, Lowrance, Simrad, B&G, are pre-installed on most of these hulls, controlling everything from navigation to sonar. Freedom Boat Club, now with more than 400 locations, funnels new customers directly into this closed loop, offering test drives that look like choice, but always bring buyers back to a Brunswick product. What appears at first glance to be a crowded field of competitors is, in reality, a single network of brands, all built, powered, and equipped by one corporation. The illusion of choice is carefully maintained, but the reality is consolidation on a scale most consumers never see. Brunswick's dominance is no accident. It's the result of 3 calculated moves that reshaped the entire boating landscape. The first came in 1961, when Brunswick bought Mercury Marine for $85 million. Mercury now supplies engines for nearly half of all new boats sold in the United States, holding a 48% share of the outboard market. Walk the floor at any major boat show, and Mercury's logo is everywhere. This isn't just about engines bolted to hulls, it's about control over what powers the vast majority of boats leaving American factories. The next move targeted who gets to experience boating in the first place. In 2019, Brunswick acquired Freedom Boat Club. At the time, FBC operated around 170 sites. Today, that number has surged past 410 locations worldwide. This club isn't just a rental service, it's a pipeline that introduces thousands of new customers to Brunswick-owned brands each year. Members get behind the wheel of Bayliner, Sea Ray, or Boston Whaler boats, all powered by Mercury outboards and loaded with Brunswick electronics. Internal company data shows that roughly 12% of Freedom Boat Club members go on to purchase a new boat, feeding a steady stream of buyers into the Brunswick ecosystem. The third play came in October 2021, when Brunswick paid $1.05 billion for Navico. This deal brought Lowrance, Simrad, and B&G, 3 of the biggest names in marine electronics, under the same roof. Now the chart plotters, sonar units, and navigation systems on most Brunswick boats all come from Navico brands. By controlling engine, electronics, and even the customer's first boating experience, Brunswick has built a closed loop. It's a system where nearly every part of the journey, from test drive to long-term ownership, runs through the same corporate network. On the factory floor, the Brunswick ecosystem comes to life in a way that few buyers ever witness. A new hull, whether it's a Bayliner, Sea Ray, or Boston Whaler, moves down the line and receives a Mercury outboard engine, already matched and bolted by Brunswick workers. Next, the wiring harness connects not just the lights and pumps, but the entire suite of electronics, Lowrance or Simrad chart plotters, B&G sailing displays, all supplied by Navico, another Brunswick brand. Accessories like motor guide trolling motors and Atwood hardware are installed as standard. And even the electrical backbone often comes from C-Zone or Mastervolt, both housed under Brunswick's Navico group. Every step is designed to keep the build in-house. By the time the boat leaves the assembly line, nearly every major component, engine, electronics, accessories, has passed through a Brunswick-owned channel. For the consumer, a single transaction at the dealership quietly locks in years of parts, service, and upgrades, all routed through the same corporate supply chain. 85% of the parts inside Brunswick's boats are shared across brands. That means what looks like choice is mostly a change in decals and upholstery. Fewer than 5% of new hulls in the US come from builders outside this system. For buyers who want something different, there are independent brands, Grady White, Malibu, Beneteau, and a handful of others. But their share is tiny, and their models can be hard to find. To avoid buying the same boat in a different wrapper, ask for a full parts list. Check the hull's manufacturer code and compare components side by side. Real choice means digging past the logos and looking for what actually sets a boat apart. Every year, Brunswick steers $5.2 billion through a web of brands that look like rivals but operate as one. As Mercury Marine tightens its grip and Freedom Boat Club channels buyers, real choice shrinks. In today's market, the illusion of variety is just one more product.